let's get to the first game that we're talking about, though. That is Walt's team, Illinois, at Duke, which is 12 p.m. Eastern time on ESPN. The storyline for me, these are two playoff sleepers, I think, in 2025. Illinois currently plus 550 to make the college football playoff according to DraftKings Sportsbook. Duke is plus 1,200. So, yes, Duke has significantly worse odds, but Dalton, you had the Blue Devils in your ACC title game in your preseason prediction. Last year, both teams that made the ACC title game made the playoff too. So Duke might have a shot of crashing the 12-team field, and whoever wins this game has a really good chance at getting one of the 7 at-large spots.
And I'll tell you what, in a very competitive ACC where you're talking about the big win Florida State just got, the big win Miami just got, obviously Clemson's going to be at the top, Louisville, Georgia Tech got a big road win last week. This is a big opportunity for Duke, especially when you talk about that at-large playoff possibility. You're talking about a big out-of-conference game against a ranked team. Yes, it's at home, but Illinois is a very good team with a lot of experience. If Duke were to win this game, both for the quality of their resume and I think for the quality of their football team and what we'd be looking at going forward, they have one of the more favorable ACC schedules. I think Clemson's on their schedule, but there's not a whole lot of tough games. I believe they avoid Louisville. They avoid Miami. I don't remember if they play Florida State. They might avoid them too. So Duke has, I think, a lot of winnable games in conference, but this would be a real statement if they could come out here and win this game at home.
You have Darian Mensah, the new Duke quarterback, and the Duke offense in this one. What you know when they're going against Gabe Akis in Illinois?
So I think the big thing is what you get from Illinois on defense structurally is just constant aggression, right? It's Akis and that 5-man rush. They're on a 5-man defensive line constantly, and one of the big themes with Illinois is man-to-man coverage. Xavier Scott and those guys in that secondary, very aggressive press man coverage. Last year, the 4th highest rate of man coverage in the country, one of just 4 teams to use man more than zone, I believe about 53% of the time. So when you look at what Darian Mensah is going to be dealing with, he's really never played a defense like this before in the American, or now obviously last week in his first game with Duke against an FCS opponent. And not only do they use it a lot, they're very good at it. Illinois, 26th last year in man coverage grade, 19th in EPA per pass allowed when in man coverage, 39th in completion percentage allowed. I believe just around 53% of their passes they allow to be completed also. So it's going to be on Darian Mensah to make tight window throws. I really like the way he threw the ball last week. Again, FCS opponent, but his first game in a new offense and a more wide open offense. I think what you're really looking at here is the matchup between Xavier Scott and that secondary for Illinois against some of these Duke receivers, right? You talk about Cooper Barkate, the transfer from Harvard, Samir Hagans, you talk about Andrell Anthony, right? I think you just need somebody here to step up who can win those one-on-ones, and Darian Mensah is going to be asked to make some tight window throws. Duke isn't the best running team. I think it could be a problem with them trying to go against this 5-man front. I think Mensah is going to be asked to make tight window throws against man coverage if he's up to the challenge. I don't think he's afraid of those throws, but if he's up to the challenge of making those throws accurately, he's going to need probably at least 3 big-time throws, I think, in this game to make explosive plays on this Illinois secondary that's very good and very experienced. That's what I see as this matchup. Darian Mensah against a super aggressive, press-heavy secondary.
And you mentioned Xavier Scott before. I don't know if you saw, but Connor Rogers on the NFL Stock Exchange podcast has Xavier Scott, I believe, is a top 15 overall prospect in the draft right now.
Which is incredible considering that he's really a nickel, right? He's playing in the slot, and it makes you think about it, former Illinois great Devin Witherspoon as well. Is he a player of that caliber? Maybe he is. We'll find out. I think this is a good matchup to find that out in.
Xavier Scott brings it in run defense too. He's an outstanding, he's probably maybe the best run defending corner that we have in college football. My matchup on the other side is how will Luke Altmaier and the Illinois offensive line handle the blitzes from Manny Diaz? Because a trademark of Manny Diaz's defenses, whether it be when he was coaching Miami, whether he was coaching the defensive coordinator at Penn State or at Duke, is how often he blitzes quarterbacks. The Blue Devils last year sent a blitz on 40% of plays in 2024. That was 4th among all schools in the Power 4. That helped Duke have over a 40% pressure rate, which was 6th in the country, despite the fact that Duke was 90th in pass rush grade. So really, they pressured the quarterback at one of the highest rates in college football because they blitzed at one of the highest rates in college football. And Illinois last year struggled when teams sent 5 or more rushers. They allowed a pressure on over 46% of the time against the blitz. That was 112th in the country. And Luke Altmaier, the quarterback, he was only 102nd in the country in passing grade with a 63.1 passing grade when he was blitzed last year with 6 big-time throws and 7 turnover-worthy plays. And it's also worth mentioning that Illinois doesn't have its top, receivers from last year, and Pat Bryant, Sakari Franklin. Duke right now is a top 10 secondary with Chandler Rivers leading it. Terry Moore still recovering from a torn ACL from last year too, but still a very good Duke secondary. You see those numbers right there. Luke Altmaier, when he played Penn State in 2023, when Manny Diaz was the defensive coordinator, 40.9 passing grade, 4 interceptions, over a 63% blitz rate. Now I know the Penn State defense in 2023 is more talented than the one he has at Duke right now. But Manny Diaz has played Luke Altmaier before, and he sent a blitz a lot at him in that game. And Luke Altmaier really struggled against Manny Diaz's defense. If Altmaier and Illinois don't have quick answers in this passing game against Manny Diaz's defense, it could be a long night for Illinois, and Duke has a chance of pulling off a top 15 upset.
It's a very big deal because when you talk about this Illinois team the last couple of years, the pass protection has been the big question. It got better in most of their games, like with J.C. Davis and Melvin Priestley as their new tackles, and those guys are back this year. But you look at last year, the games they struggled in, right? Penn State couldn't pass protect. When they played Oregon, they couldn't pass protect. The Michigan game was low scoring. They did win because Michigan couldn't score, but obviously they struggled to pass protect. That really becomes a theme here. And, Luke Altmaier, when he's in a clean pocket, he plays like a top, 25 to 30 quarterback. And when he's under pressure is when things really go wrong. We saw that 2 years ago, like you just mentioned, took way too many sacks. Again, not his fault. They just couldn't pass protect. So I think that's going to be a big thing is Manny Diaz confusing this defensive line. But it would help if Illinois can get in the run game on early downs. Caden Fagan, Aiden Lawfery, 2 really good backs who I think they can balance this thing out with. I'm with you. I don't think Illinois wants to be in too many obvious passing situations. They want to be able to get the RPO game going, get the run game going, stay ahead of the chains. If they get 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9 against this Manny Diaz defense and all the looks he can throw at you, it could be a problem.
So, Illinois, who we don't know yet because the AP poll is dropping, I believe, in like an hour, but they will be in the top 15 of that AP poll. Will Illinois win, or will Duke pull off an upset over a top 15 team in Illinois?
This is tight. This is a tight game because it's going to be a hard-fought, gritty defensive game. I'm going to take the home team. I'm going to take the Blue Devils 24-20. I could even see the score being lower than that. I think this game, and you know me, I'm a big fan of Duke. I think this game comes down to which quarterback is going to be feeling the heat and which one just doesn't make the big mistakes under pressure. We have so much evidence that Luke Altmaier, when he's under heavy pressure, can get into mistakes, right? He can turn the ball over. He can take a lot of sacks. This Illinois offensive line is very often the X factor in their success or failures. Now, I will say we haven't seen that from Mensa necessarily at the top level, right? Now you're talking about a Power 4 game that he didn't have to play with, against at Tulane, and it's really a big moment. It's the first big pressure moment for him here at Duke. But I think at home, what Manny Diaz is capable of on defense, I think whichever team can complement it enough with the run game and stay ahead of the chains, that's really the big thing to me, I think, on both sides, is which team can stay ahead of the chains, can be in 3rd and 3 instead of 3rd and 8. I think it's going to be a grind. I think it especially could be a very defensive game early in this game, but I like the progress that Mensa's made. I like the way he threw the ball last week. I'm going to take Duke 24-20.
I thought I was going to be the only one that took Duke in this game, and I thought I was going to leg up on you with this one. I also have Duke. I have Duke 21-17 winning this ball game too. I just think Manny Diaz, and I know 2 years ago is a lot different than what it is now. Luke Altmaier's a much better quarterback than he was 2 years ago. But I think that game plan, though, of just how often he blitzes and how bad Illinois' offensive line was against the blitz and how bad Luke Altmaier's been against the blitz, this is a bad matchup for Illinois' offense. I really do think that in this game. I think it'll be a low-scoring game. Again, 21-17 is my final score. I think Duke's going to pull it off. Also, it's at Duke in Durham is a big factor, too, for me in this one. I think Duke will pull it off and pull off a major upset and deliver a huge blow to Illinois' playoff hopes this year.
And if Mensa has enough time, some of the throws that I saw him make last week, again, very, very low opponent, FCS opponent last week, but some of the throws, if Mensa has enough time in the pocket, 2.5 to 3 seconds back there against what's very often a 5-man rush from Illinois, a much more standard one, deep crossers, deep outs against single coverage, corner routes, just different things that get going horizontally in this passing game that Mensa's very comfortable throwing. If he's on the other side, it's the same thing. If he's got enough time in the pocket, I think he can absolutely make throws that can beat that man coverage. It's really, this game is going to come down to pass protection, I think, on both sides, because you don't want to be throwing balls into tight man coverage under pressure. If you have time to be able to do so, then you can do it. You can get the ball placement going. But I think this game does come down to pass protection. I'm going to trust Mensa to make those downfield throws.
So apologies to Walt for picking Duke over his Illinois Fighting Illini, but it should be a whale of a ball game on Saturday. And 71% of the people in the chat pick Illinois -3. So they are disagree with us right now.
Dangerous number, because this very well could be exactly a 3-point game. It's going to be a tight defensive game. I think you're going to see a lot of the defensive talent in this game flash.